Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is Bill Miles, and welcome to our weekly town hall, Tele-Town hall, provided by the Hilton Head-Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. And we're glad to have so many of you listening this morning, and others on Facebook Live, as well as continuing to watch on the Beaufort County channel. So welcome, and we think we've got a really good program for you this morning. Also want to thank so many of you who tuned in yesterday for our Lunch with Lawmakers series. And yesterday was focused on Hilton Head Island Town Council races. And if for those of you that were dialed in yesterday, you would certainly hear the passion of those running for office. And that's really good to see, and in these contested elections. I also want to encourage you to tune in again next week for our Lunch with Lawmakers, where our own Hannah Horne will be focusing and featuring on incumbent challenger of the U.S. District #1 race, and that's Nancy Mace. So Hannah will be talking with Nancy Mace next week, followed by Congressman Cunningham the following week. So we want to make sure Tuesdays at noon that you dial in for those. And then on previous calls, you know, we've heard Gene Beck talk a little bit about Gene's the CEO of the Hilton Head Area Association of Realtors, and discussed how hot real estate is right now. And there was an article in yesterday's Wall Street Journal that mentioned Hilton Head Island and how we're one of the top locations in the country for vacation rentals and also real estate sales. So that was very, very encouraging. And today we're going to go hyper local on our call. We're going to take a deep dive into really the economic well-being, the overall health check for some of our various business segments, and see just really how the local economy has performed throughout the summer, battling with COVID. First today, to kick off our call, we're going to hear from a business sector that we all enjoy, and that's restaurants. We all enjoy dining out, and we also enjoy getting great takeout food as well from our local restaurants. And Hilton Head Island's largest employer is the SERG Group with 1,100 employees. They've certainly felt the impact of the pandemic and have been very nimble in dealing with the challenges along the way. And their president, Alan Wolf, he led our Path Forward Readiness Plan for the restaurant segment. And today he's going to offer some insight for us on how the SERG Group is doing, what trends they're seeing, and how they've adapted in 2020. And what some may not know is that in addition to overseeing management of 16 restaurants, Alan and his wife, Laura, they're the proud parents of 6 children. And he's a very, very busy man. And Alan, thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to an update from you regarding the SERG Group and how your summer has been.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Appreciate you having the hyper-local focus today, and happy to share a little bit of feedback from our perspective. I'm not surprised to hear those vacation and home rental numbers. That seems to be one of the things that we're so fortunate for in our industry. Looking back to May 4th, which we'll never forget that date on our side in the restaurant business, we got our, outdoor reopening orders from Governor McMaster, and that was really kind of the start of 2020, to be honest with you, from a restaurant perspective. And the build was just incredible into the summer. The capacities indoors certainly limited certain restaurants that we had, such as Wise Guys, Frankie Bones, those that didn't have the larger outdoor dining capacities, had a harder time being able to get back and claw back the sales as quickly as some that have the larger outdoor settings. And that's certainly a unique thing for Hilton Head. We feel so fortunate to be down here with the environment and the atmosphere of being outside, just kind of natural for the business community. I know that downtown Charleston has had a much harder time because they don't have those outdoor dining venues. So we really saw a nice steady build through the summer, but the capacities indoors kept the numbers just moderate. We were down, let's say, 15% for the most part over the summer. We were really happily surprised at the end of August and with September beginning and now into October that it seems like an endless summer. We've never had a September as strong as we've seen. And sans hurricane, obviously, which has been a wonderful thing not to have to face, the numbers are just fantastic based on the visitors that have come to the area. So we feel extremely fortunate in the restaurant business to have the opportunity to claw back from that 6 weeks closure. Unfortunately, restaurants typically tend to hold about 30 days of payables over their heads. And the good thing that came out of COVID is we are now at net 7 for the most part across the restaurant industry, which has took a lot of pressure off in case of another closure forever to come, and also in case we got any hurricane scares. So we feel like from a financial health standpoint, our restaurants are in the best spot they've been in. in my 20 years of working with them, to be honest with you. And that's really simply because of the area that we live in. We're not taking it for granted. We know that the rest of the restaurant industry is having a much harder time. I will say the workforce continues to be our number one challenge. We've seen a good influx of qualified management candidates from other markets because they don't have restaurants reopening there, flooding down to Hilton Head and Bluffton area, which we're excited for, but we're not seeing that necessarily at more of the hourly positions. So we're hoping to see some growth there. And I'll lastly touch on catering and events. Our catering sales have been, abysmal, much like probably hotels for the course of the summer. But we're starting to see October. Finally, events are starting to occur, and we're seeing a big swell of events heading into the spring of 2021. So fingers crossed that everything stays on the right trend, but we even see catering and events coming back in the not too distant future.
All right, Alan, lost you there for a minute, but I think we.
Sorry, Bill, if I lost you. We're on a chef's field trip heading down into Georgia, so I apologize if I lost you at this point.
All right, Alan, if you can hear me now,
Yes.
Question for you. Sorry for the interruption there, but
no problem.
Amy is asking, what is your biggest challenge with the pandemic as far as the restaurant industry goes?
Well, I would say that one of the challenges is being great at takeout. We're not great at takeout. It was a whole new thing. I remember the day Cinco de Mayo came, the day after we got our reopening orders, we got run over at Holy Tequila trying to do takeout because it's just not in our normal business core processes. So we've been really trying to get better at that across the board. That's been one of our biggest challenges is, being able to do it as well as some of the big boxes, the fast food services where you see these long lines. It's not in our DNA from an operational flow standpoint. So that's been our biggest challenge is to meet the demand of that takeout segment. And we feel like we can certainly get better there.
Thanks for that, Alan. Another question is coming from Terry. And Terry is asking if your group plans any additional restaurants for the Bluffton area.
We don't have anything in the Bluffton area at the moment on the horizon. No, we do not. But we love what we're doing with Frankie Bones. Had a great rebound, and One Hot Mamas, and just happy to continue to just do great out there. So we're very fortunate for what we have there.
All right, well, thank you. And Alan, also want to just say thank you for partnering in our Help for Hope program early on during the crisis, and that meant so much to so many and helped so many as well. So thank you for that. We're going to let you run, and thank you again for being with us this morning. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Take care, Alan. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we've heard this morning a little bit earlier about real estate and how real estate is booming. Also, building industry is booming in the Low Country. And here with us this morning to talk a little bit about that is Meg James. And Meg is she's been at the helm as the executive officer of the Hilton Head Home Builders Association since 2013. They're almost 500 members strong across 3 counties, and Meg has a lot in her hands. And Meg, we're glad to have you with us today to get an update on the home building industry from your perspective.
Thank you, Bill. I'm happy to be here. And I think it's no secret that the building industry is currently flourishing, but that's also not without many challenges like everyone else is facing. Patience is a term that it's frequently heard around here, whether it's our local building departments asking for patience with permit turnaround time or inspection scheduling, or manufacturers, suppliers, installers, your builder. Patience is something the industry and everyone, I think, needs more of. Combined with better than expected housing demand has resulted in clearly a strong market activity. Single family construction permits are running 3.4% higher during the first half of 2020 compared to 2019. This activity has measurable benefits for job growth in communities. Building 1,000 average single family homes creates 2,900 full-time jobs and generates over 110 million in taxes and fees for all levels of government to support police, firefighters, and schools. These are national statistics. Locally, our pulled permits report show building trending up, but slowly. We're keeping pace year over year. As of October 6th, if we look back at 2019's pulled permits, we were at about 1,336 single family homes. And as of October 4th of 2020, we're at 1,422. So just slightly trending up there. And we see kind of a similar trend with commercial, multifamily, remodels, pools, detached garages, things like that. So in addition to the strong market, the building industry has also been supporting job growth. Locally, I've seen several of my colleagues pivot careers from the restaurant and event planning side, and they've come over to the building industry. And I think they've found that they're actually a really good fit. Their customer service is spot on for helping builders and be that liaison between the builder and the client. Our personal HBA job board postings are up 50% year over year. So it's positive. There was a job or a skilled trade shortage before the pandemic happened, and it was exaggerated during this, but it's a positive thing because we've seen folks pivot in their careers and come over to the building industry. So although this is all great news, there is still great concern that this success is at risk of reversal, as builders have seen a dramatic increase in the cost of materials, particularly lumber. Shortages of lumber have resulted in a 130% increase in lumber prices since mid-April. The Random Lengths framing composite price shot past the $900 barrier for the first time ever on September 4th. Oriented strand board prices are up nearly 180% from a year ago. We haven't seen this spike in this since 2018 when it hit $582. So 900 is a large figure. These sharp increases are challenging, especially in light of the ongoing housing affordability crisis. The National Association of Home Builders estimates the recent spike in softwood lumber costs has caused the price of an average new single-family home to increase by $16,000 since April 17. The market value of the average new multifamily home has increased by a little over $6,000 over the same period. Housing can do its part to create jobs and return the economy to what it was prior to the pandemic, but in order to do so, we need to address the rising cost of lumber and other building materials. We understand that in the current environment, producers of building materials face a range of complications in getting their product to market. COVID-19 has shut down sawmills and severely disrupted supply chains. That can be seen in other industries like our HVAC folks. I was talking to them, plumbing fixtures, appliances, everyone's lighting fixtures. Everything I'm hearing is order early, which means you have to make those selections early, which is, I think, one of the hardest parts when building a new home, and be patient. Folks our members are trying to order inventory and keep it on hand just so they have it for when it's ready to install. We've seen significant issues with scheduling. You know, it's one thing to make sure you've got the product in on time, but then is the installer ready and is the builder ready for the installer? So the complications are many, and we combined that with local efforts to implement a variety of impact fees. The county is pushing out a variety of impact fees that are looking to potentially increase the cost of a single family home by another $16,000 to $17,000. So this is all very daunting, exciting, but daunting. And we're just trying to keep our members informed of everything that's going on, be a part of the conversation, meet with our local leaders. And so I think my message today is to be patient, to order your appliances, your fixtures, your HVAC units, order early and be patient.
Meg, that's good advice. Thank you. If you have time for a couple questions, we have one in this morning from Jim. And Jim is asking if you or the National Home Builders Association might have any idea when the supply chain would catch up with demand.
I can say that I know that our leadership at the National Association of Home Builders is meeting with the president's leadership to come up with a solution. There's both sides. There's folks who think we need to kind of maybe halt growth to be able to allow production to catch up. And then there's the other ones who want production to speed up. They're running 2 shifts. They want to see 3 shifts. So I've also seen, and it's not something for us locally, but in other states where, colder weather is coming in, they're making decisions to push new single family home starts to the spring in hopes that prices will go down. And they're just going to focus on remodels and retrofits and things to that effect. I don't think that that's an option for us here, as we are blessed with warm weather pretty much year round. But I think it's just, no one can really say, but everyone I know is working to come to the table and to find a solution to get us back into more of a groove.
Thank you. And one more question for you, and it's coming from Julie. And Julie is asking, how long has the wait time increased for a home being built?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say probably the average would change, and it's because of the supply chain demand. One of the trends that the HVAC company shared with me was indoor air quality. And they said the lead time on getting UV lights and other items is anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So if you think about that, and then the installer, the builder, the scheduling issues, I would say 2 months. And that's another, we're looking at folks getting home loans to build and to buy, and how does that affect that process? So it's all very complicated. I would say if I was to put an average on it, let's say 6 to 8 weeks. I think that is probably a decent average.
Meg, thank you. And we look forward to having you back in maybe a month or two to look a little bit, talk further about the supply chain demand and how's that coming along, and then also of hopefully the continued success of home building taking place.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys today.
All right, Meg, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right, we'll transition now to talking a little bit of retail. And Mike Overton has been on Hilton Head Island since 1979. And Mike's business started as a windsurfing company. And I guess that's what you do when you're ranked among the top 5 international windsurfers. And that might be something that many didn't know, but number 5 internationally when he arrived here. And then his business grew along the way and now encompasses retail, recreation, and destination management. We're also proud to have him as a graduate of the Chamber's Leadership Program. Quite the entrepreneur. He's behind Outside Brands. And Mike Overton, we're delighted to have you with us today as well, and look forward to hearing an update from you and how your business has transitioned during this time of COVID.
Thank you, Bill. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I just first really appreciate these updates and what the Chamber's done to keep the communication clear and keep everybody informed. As you said, we have 3 revenue divisions in our organization. We have retail, and then leisure recreation, and then corporate groups from the destination management side. And on the retail, this year was interesting. It was quite a change. The demand for lifestyle and fashion dropped considerably. So people, when they're sitting at home on Zoom calls, getting a nice new dress didn't seem to be a big demand. But on the flip side of it, the demand for functional items versus fashion went up considerably. So the entire recreational equipment industry, whether it was a fishing rod or bicycle or kayak or paddleboard, the supply chain was damaged and the demand was out the roof. And so when we had product, it was a great summer, and there's still a demand. I know even the local bike rental companies, if they didn't put orders in last July for delivery for next spring, they're probably not going to be able to get bikes next spring. And so it's a really interesting conundrum there. But it's been on the retail side, the sales of things like kayaks and paddleboards, which we do, has been exceptional. And again, on the sportswear side, people seem to be going more function with sunblock shirts and so forth versus the fashion. And it'll be interesting to see how the holiday retail pans out. But we're happy to say both we switched to an online platform and the traffic has been remarkably good in the stores considering. On the destination management piece, as everybody would probably expect and knows, the corporate group travel is pretty much stopped. So that business has been non-existent since spring. However, it's interesting, the last few weeks, the phone calls and the RFPs seem to have picked up quite a bit. And so a lot of interest. We've got a lot of groups on the books for spring, and a lot of interest in the fall of 21 and really strong for 2022 going forward, it seems. So it seems that as soon as there is a vaccine or a medicine that's clear, corporate groups, especially with it seems a lot of companies working remote with a real demand to connect face to face, I think the travel will pick up quite a bit. And it seems that with our outdoor oriented destination and the drive market, we'll see some of that coming back in the spring quite a bit. And then on leisure recreation, we had just a remarkable summer. Quite a bit of changes. For our boating tours, we switched to only doing private charters, so no shared experiences. And as a result, ended up having the best summer in history for us with things booked back to back. It was also interesting. The customers seemed more appreciative than ever, and the average transaction was up considerably. And a lot of locals getting out, and we're seeing a lot of the transplants that are working remotely coming here, really taking that solace in the outdoors. And just one other point on the corporate side, the other piece we do there is a team and leadership development piece. And while that also has been not happening from the travel side, on the local side, this fall, it's gotten extremely busy. Again, I think with a lot of local organizations that have been working remotely or not having the benefit of a team atmosphere when you can't see somebody's face, really reaching out for a way to build back that team morale. And so that's kind of been a nice uptick.
All right, Mike, thank you. And that's certainly encouraging news on the corporate business, as that's such an important part of our business mix here on Hilton Head Island and for the region. Alan talked a little bit earlier about how the summer is continuing, and our next question comes from Richard, and Richard is asking if you are optimistic about your fall business.
Well, I think Alan's term, the endless summer, is accurate. I think a lot of local businesses had the best September on record. It was nice not having an evacuation this year. But again, the best September we've ever had. It's played into into October, and our bookings through October, even into early November right now, are looking strong, and it looks like it'll be one of the best Thanksgiving holidays we've ever seen. What I'm hearing from bookings from both rental companies and hotels and what we have on our books. So it's the fall, to answer Richard's questions, looking very strong. Hello?
Yes, Mike, thank you. We're having just a little bit of technical difficulties there. I'm sorry I got booted out, but I'm back now. And another question is coming from Helen. And Helen is asking if you're planning any more expansions of your outside business at Palmetto Bluff operation or other locations in Bluffton.
Well, we do have a little expansion going on across the river in Savannah. You'll see a new retail store there opening up in the spring. And Palmetto Bluff, not expansion, but that's been also exceptionally busy. I think even though they're big part of Montage Palmetto Bluff's business is corporate groups, and that, again, like every other, I think, hotel operator is way down. Their leisure business has been just considerable. And I think their average daily rate has also been up, which has been a nice balance.
Mike, thank you, and congrats on how you've changed your game to fit the times and on a successful summer. And we appreciate you being on this morning to talk to us a little bit about that. And then also just want to take the opportunity to thank you again for co-chairing our Recreation and Attractions Path Forward group. We really appreciate your leadership there.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you. We're going to shift now over to talk about vacation rentals and hear how that's going. And our next guest has certainly been a leader in the vacation rental management on Hilton Head Island since 2003. He sits on the national board of VRMA, which is the Vacation Rental Management Association, and also sits on the Accommodation Tax Board committee here on Hilton Head Island, and is the co-founder of Island Time Hilton Head. So we're delighted to have Drew Brown with us. Drew, look forward to hearing your update regarding how your summer's been going, and also what you see the remaining part of 2020 being in the home and builder rental business.
Thanks so much, Bill. First and foremost, thanks to you and the Chamber team. I just want to make sure that you guys get as much credit as you can about the path forward. As we know, both locally and nationally, it was a tremendous a tool to use to be able to open safely and responsibly. But the second quarter and end of summer season really ended up taking off for the entire island. With all those protocol in place, we were able to make sure to welcome guests. We ran 100% occupancy through the end of August through Labor Day, actually, and that's not as typical. Typically, you see a fall off around the 15th, second week of August as schools start to go back, and that's bled over into the fall season. So September, going to all of our home and villa partners. A very, very busy time frame. The summer was as best as it could, and it actually started sooner for us, for all of us this year. We even started in early May. So that level of occupancy did stay consistent all the way through August. And as Mike and Alan both alluded to, September was probably one of the most highly occupied months on record. That has bled into October as well. And as Mike did allude to, we're looking at across the inventory a pretty high level, maybe, if things continue at this pace, one of the highest occupancy Thanksgiving weeks, on record. A lot of it has changed the way that we as vacation rental companies do business. Before, Hilton Head Island has always been a Saturday to Saturday destination, 7-day bookings. And we've all had to become a lot more flexible, whether that be shorter stays of 4 nights or longer stays of 30 nights or more. We booked 3 reservations yesterday for over 4 months at a time from some folks from northern states. No borders open means no Canadians coming in at this point, but a lot of our northern guests are wanting to come down. The outlook for the fourth quarter is really positive in terms of what we see for both September, October, going into November, December. And then that's when we'll start to see what the booking pace is for 2021. Typically we see a huge amount of bookings between November and December for 2021. So that'll be our first true test to see what we think the world thinks of, post-COVID. So obviously not through it. Obviously, we had our company alone, we had a cancellation with COVID that we had to work with a guest because they ended up testing positive before they came down, and we're able to work with the homeowner and them to have an amicable solution. So still working through all of that, but the outlook for occupancy and revenue for the fourth quarter is very positive.
Drew, thank you for that update, and a couple questions for you as well. Right now we have Connie, and Connie is asking, how has no Canadian travel impacted vacation rentals for Hilton Head Island?
So the Canadian market is probably one of the largest international markets that we have. So it is definitely impacted in a negative way, especially the first quarter of 2021. A lot of those people are what we considered snowbirds, and they come down a lot of times for the winter. So not having access to that market has definitely put some pressure on our first quarter bookings. So that's definitely something that we're just continuing to try and find new markets. One of the things I did want to mention is one of the reasons why we had such a strong September and October was because of the impact of all of the storms in the Florida market. So we were able to access more guests from other states that we've not seen previously, Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri even. So that's hopeful that we'll be able to pull some of that, but it is, Connie, to answer your question, it is a very impactful situation to the first quarter market for next year.
All right, thank you for that. A question here from Rick, and Rick's asking, are you seeing more families remote schooling and working for multiple weeks, staying in the rentals?
That's a great question, and yes, we are. We in fact at Island Time have started to work with some of the local providers to increase the internet speeds at all of our properties, because we're seeing so many people that want to come down and spend multiple weeks here. We've got properties that are rented for months at a time in this time of year here in the third and fourth quarter, simply because of the ability to work from home remotely and then do homeschooling as well. So we're seeing an uptick in properties that have an actual office, or den or built-in workspace. That's one of the main questions that we get asked now is, what's the internet speed? Is there a place to work? And then of course, everyone always wants a deal. So trying to get special pricing.
All right, Drew. Well, thanks for the update today, and we're glad to hear that fall is looking good as well. And we look forward to we'll catch up with you in a few weeks down the road to hear what 2021 is looking like.
Thanks so much, Bill. And again, thank you for your work and your entire team's work for all you do for our community.
All right, you're welcome, and thanks again, Drew. Now, next, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hilton Head Island Airport, and we might have noticed a few more planes flying overhead since back in March, and we're fortunate to have with us the director of the airport, John Rembold, to talk a little bit about what he's seeing in load factors and different flights and routes. John, welcome, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's good to be here and to give you all an update. As most people do, we track the numbers very closely because we just want to see what the story is looking like for this time of year. And I can tell you that moving from summer, kind of the traditional travel season, into the fall has really been great for the airport so far. The September numbers for 2020 are almost, believe it or not, almost exactly the same as what they were for 2019. So it's amazing. I think part of that is that we've had a few extra new cities that have been added in, just even if it's just once or twice a week that the airlines have flown to those new cities. We've had Dallas, Fort Worth in there, Philadelphia and Chicago, which were nice adds. And then of course we have some direct flights to Reagan National, which has been big for us. So the numbers look really, really strong for September. Everybody keeps asking me what it'll look like through the fall, and it is very hard to tell. I don't know. Usually we do see a little bit of a bump in the fall when folks, I know Drew has spoken about it, and Mike as well, some of the folks who come in for the fall vacations. So we anticipate that those numbers should hold out at least another month. But the airlines are, they're struggling. Everybody knows that, on national news, they still really are in need of stimulus. They're having a real hard time managing the cash burn. So I guess the word is if you feel like you can travel, it's certainly encouraged at this point. It's very, very safe. There's been new research out there that says being on an airplane is probably as they're saying as clean and as safe as being in the Mayo Clinic. There's new data that supports the safety of air travel, and it says you're less likely to contact COVID in the air, inside an airplane than you are shopping for groceries or being at a home improvement store. So if you've got the inclination to travel, I think it's very safe. The emphasis that's been put on cleanliness by the airports and the airlines is huge, and that certainly is to the benefit of the consumer. So we look forward to seeing those numbers bump back up, kind of ramp back up, and just see that enthusiasm continue. Just hats off to Hilton Head Island again for being the #1 island. I mean, that's great. It's a huge testament to what everybody on the island has done to just continue to tell the story. It's a great story, and it's fun to tell, and people want to be here. I think the numbers show that. So let's just continue to make that an opportunity for them and let them know that, you know, they've got an airport to fly into directly on the island. And we can reach out to many one-stop destinations, and certainly a bunch of direct ones as well. And we just look forward to being here to support. We've got a lot of projects that are moving along. We're still in design of that new terminal, so stand by for that one. COVID has definitely impacted it a little bit just because of schedule-wise and funding and that sort of thing. So, you know, it throws a few new challenges at us, but nothing that we can't overcome. We're still on target for that. So we're optimistic about that. And I can tell you on the private side of the airport, with the business travel, corporate travel has been absolutely nonstop over there. So those, I suppose, the folks who have been able to transition over to the private jets instead of flying commercial have definitely done that. We have definitely seen that here at Hilton Head Island Airport. It's been very busy. And that's certainly a good sign. So hopefully that'll continue, and that the commercial side will continue to pick up as well.
John, thank you for that encouraging update. And certainly it's most encouraging to hear that the September 2020 numbers are almost the same as where they were in 2019. That's terrific. And then, as you'd mentioned, Dallas and Philly, Fort Worth, Chicago, and Reagan National are all great markets for us as well. We've had a couple of questions that you've already answered, so you know what the listeners wanted to hear this morning, which was good. The one getting a little more specific on the remodel, Ben is asking, when will the new terminal be complete or remodeled? Any ideas? I know that you were on schedule, and then COVID really set things back some.
Yeah, it did set us back a little bit, Bill, but we are at about probably a 60% design on that terminal now, and we're starting to get into the permitting and that with the town, with the design review board and those types of agencies. So we are moving along that track, and I hope to, within the next probably few weeks, be able to put out some teasers of what that building is going to look like. So we are going to phase that project, and that's for several different reasons. Just for construction, because we'll be building while we're operating the terminal, the existing terminal. So we'll phase that project, and I don't know the exact finish date of that, because it is bouncing around a little bit because of FAA funding and things like that. But it's a couple years out. I'd say it's a minimum 2 years out for completion. It might be a little bit longer than that, but it is going to be phased. So you'll begin to see new parts of that terminal, I would say, within about 2 years. So we're excited to make those changes.
That's exciting to hear. And we'll give a few weeks or a month or so, and we'll look forward to having you back on, John, and maybe we can share some of the renderings and other things as you have them ready with some of our listeners.
I'd love to be able to do that with this audience. Thank you.
All right, John, thank you, and appreciate you being with us today, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to switch to our DHEC report. We're glad to have with us Dr. Jane Kelly again today, and Dr. Kelly will give us the latest information, and then also some other tips that she's been so good to do with us for the last few weeks. Dr. Kelly?
Good morning. Thank you. First, let's do the numbers. South Carolina statewide had 5,163 new confirmed cases of COVID-19. And that's reported for a total of 152,963 statewide, and 96 new confirmed deaths for a total of 3,371. During that same time, Beaufort County had 119 new confirmed cases for a total of 5,826. Statewide, South Carolina and Beaufort County have both been in a slight downward trajectory over the last 2 weeks, which is good news, but it's slight. It's a little bit more closer to a plateau. So I think we all need to keep our guard up and continue doing what we've been doing with keeping people safe. There were 4 new confirmed deaths in Beaufort County over the past week for a total of 86 confirmed deaths. And the age group that is seeing the most deaths is the over 65 age group. 80% of deaths statewide, and this is true for the country as well, are in people older than 65 years of age or older. However, we are still seeing some deaths in people as young as in their teens, and there are some odd manifestations of a multi-inflammatory systemic syndrome. So the caution is still, this is not just a disease of old people or the infirm or people with comorbid conditions. There's still a lot of unknowns about this disease. I did want to mention that the age group with the largest increases in cases in South Carolina remains the youngest age group, age 20 to 30-year-olds, which may be in part because of an increase in number of cases in college and university students. We are seeing a decrease in the number of deaths, which I think it reflects better management in nursing homes. Most nursing homes in the state now have Binax Now cards. We've talked a little bit previously about different tests, that there's the PCR test, which is the gold standard, the nasal swab gold standard test, but it's done in a special lab, takes 24 to 48 hours to get results. In nursing homes, they are increasingly using frequent antigen tests, which are ones that will give you a point of care answer, sometimes as fast as 15 minutes. And they're starting to open up nursing home visitation. Previously, it had been simply outdoor visitation only. Now we're having indoor visits because of this ability to test not only nursing home residents and staff, but visitors to make sure that they are negative, at least as far as we know with these rapid tests, negative when they come indoors for visitation. That's been, frequent testing has been key to preventing nursing home outbreaks. I did want to mention what's going on with K through 12 schools. However, we are seeing increases in cases among K through 12 schools. Statewide, we now have 906 students and 371 staff who have tested positive for COVID-19 since schools reopened. But it's more focal than that. There are certain counties that are having much more of a problem than others. For example, Anderson County has had several school outbreaks with large number of students and problems with quarantining large numbers of students because of school sports or other events that are large group gatherings. Beaufort County schools, though, just like I reported last week, most of them have had 0 cases. There are a couple of exceptions, but no new news since last week. I mean, Hilton Head High and May River High have some cases, but otherwise, almost all the schools have 0 cases. So whatever Beaufort County schools are doing, they're doing it right. I wanted to address a little bit business reopening, that we've got some guidance on our DHEC website. And if you simply Google DHEC COVID business, it'll bring you to a number of updated guidance documents. For example, there's a COVID-19 reopening guidance for business. I bet that there's a lot of this that you already know about, recommendations for distancing, masks, frequent cleaning of surfaces, but it also has some key points about screening, because we often get questions about, well, should we be screening employees, just routine screening of asymptomatic employees before they come to work? And that is, in fact, not recommended. Unlike children, almost all adults will have a fever or symptoms. So certainly if someone has symptoms that may be suspicious for COVID-19, they should be tested. But routine screening of asymptomatic people before they return to work is not recommended. Nursing homes, congregate living situations like that with high-risk people, that's a different story. But for routine return to business, it's not recommended that asymptomatic people be tested. On the other hand, we're coming into flu season, and that's awkward because a lot of the symptoms of influenza and COVID-19 have overlap. Runny nose, sore throat, aching all over. So again, I highly recommend that everyone get a flu shot. I got my flu shot, and I'm aware of the fact that the flu shot is not 100% and that there are years where it is less than 50% effective. But even if it doesn't completely prevent the flu, it will mitigate it. It will lower the symptoms. And for those that it does prevent, it'll also prevent a lot of confusion and unnecessary testing for COVID-19. Some of the other advice for businesses reopening is how to handle a situation where a coworker does have a confirmed COVID-19 test. What do they need to do? What do you need to do as an employer around your other employees who may have been a close contact to that individual? As well as some advice about what is your responsibility to the community at large. I mean, DHEC doesn't mandate, or certainly DHEC doesn't mandate anything about businesses informing the public. For example, you're a restaurant who had a server or someone in the kitchen who tested positive. What is your responsibility to the public to reveal that information? It's certainly in some cases, a good PR move to raise community awareness around COVID-19 and risk. But the recommendations and suggestions for what to do if you have an employee who tests positive is also up on that DHEC page. And there's also a discussion of what does it mean to be a close contact? I mean, you've probably all heard the phrase about being within 6 feet for 15 minutes equals a close contact. But that changes depending upon the circumstances. If you're outdoors, if you have something with a lot of ventilation, then that may not be considered a close contact. Or if everyone was wearing masks, that may not be considered a close contact. So I would suggest take a look at that guidance for COVID-19 scenarios in business settings rather than my reading through all the individual details. Though if you've got questions, if you've got specific questions around a particular scenario or circumstance, you can always email them to DHEC. We've got an information line where that question will then go to epidemiologists or medical personnel such as myself, and we can return back to you with some advice. That's all I have for you today.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. A couple of questions for you. And first one is coming from John. And I was certainly, before I get to that, I want to say it was encouraging news about what you had mentioned about Beaufort County and Beaufort County schools. And so that's certainly a trend that we want to continue to see. And I know you'll continue to monitor that for us. John is asking, is a positive test result considered the same as a case?
Yes. So let me, there are some nuances to that. So there are 3 tests. There's the PCR, which is a virus test that's done in a special lab, and that's the gold standard. If that's positive, then that is considered a case, even if you have no symptoms. Another test is the antigen test. That's a protein test, and that's the one that's a rapid turnaround test. Not as accurate, it's not as sensitive. So if somebody has symptoms and that test is negative, we recommend getting the PCR test because it's going to miss up to 20% of positives. And that's because it doesn't amplify the protein, whereas the PCR does. It like multiplies the virus so that the machine can pick it up more easily. So PCR, if it's positive, that's definitely a case. Antigen, if it's negative and you have symptoms, we recommend getting the PCR. If both of those are negative, then it's not a case. The third test I should mention are the antibody tests. Antibody tests will tell you if you have been previously infected. Doesn't tell you when though. Doesn't tell you whether you were infected 6 months ago or 2 weeks ago. So we don't recommend doing those tests except in some special circumstances. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yes, it does. Thank you. We've had several other questions that you've already covered, so thank you for that. And then I had one listener from last week asking me to mention to you that perhaps in next week or the following weeks, you could discuss a little bit about the importance of personal health, and that being that during COVID, people have been putting off routine exams, other procedures that need to be done, and maybe addressing the safety and as well as the need, if there is a need for people to be monitoring that. So just something for you to think about for our next call, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely. That's a very important topic. Thank you for suggesting that.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us again this week, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then we're going to focus just a little bit on small business and our nonprofits here as we get ready for our last speaker. And many of you know that Hannah Horne, who's on our team here and has been working all things small business before COVID and certainly during COVID as well. Hannah, thanks for joining us this morning, and look forward to your update on what's ahead in the following weeks.
Thank you, Bill. Huge news for our small business and nonprofit community. Those of you who I know during a lot of web-based calls, you multitask, you have a lot of stuff going on in your homes. Please come into the room really fast, focus your attention. I got a couple slides that I need to share. The state of South Carolina has released details on 2 new grant programs, and I cannot tell you how short these windows are for our small businesses and nonprofits to apply. This is no joke, folks. It's going to open up on Monday, and you're going to have until November the 1st to apply. So 2 short weeks for you to gather a lot of documentation. If you want to be a part of a grant program, much like the PPP, these are forgivable loan grants types of formats. So again, there are stipulations attached to them, but you're gonna have to listen in, okay? Kelly Brunson from our team is gonna put some stuff in the chat box for you to resource. Also, Christian on our team has already put this information on our website at Head-Bluffton under the news portion, but I'm gonna run through a couple of these slides. It'll take me just a second. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh goodness, I'm so bad at this whole screen sharing thing. There we go. All right, and let me slide this over. I'll give folks time to get into the next room anyway. All right, guys, can you see this? We got it? All right, here are the grant programs.
Yes.
These are for nonprofits. Okay, so let me talk to my nonprofits here really fast. These are our registered 501c3s here in South Carolina. You must have been in operation from October the 13th to present. You are going to have to demonstrate that you have had an operational or financial impact as a result of COVID. These grants are anywhere from $2,500 to $50,000, okay, per organization. There's $25 million in this fund to go to our state's nonprofits. Keep in mind, folks, this is that big 600 and some odd $1 million that the state had to dole out. And this is what happens when it went from Washington to the states, and the states developed these programs. We're finally seeing a grant program to get it right here to our area. The application for this is going to open up on October the 19th. And again, it's going to go through November the 1st. Now, there are qualifying expenditures. So what kinds of things are they going to be looking at for me to spend this money on? Staffing costs, operating costs, facility costs, PPE, as well as revenue losses that it could help come in under and support. There's some supporting documentation that is going to go along with this grant program. Our nonprofits, though, we've had no problem trying to explain what grants or forgivable loans are to our nonprofits, because they're so used to being in the grant business. But again, you're going to need to provide budgets and your Form 990 or 990N. These are all things that our nonprofits, they speak this language. But again, staffing costs, facility costs, revenue costs, all things that you're going to have to put into this application that will go live again on Monday. All right, nonprofits, we love you. We know you need this help. It's coming to you, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you get in on it. Switching gears to our small and minority businesses, okay? There's $40 million in this fund for our small and minority businesses. You have to have 25 or fewer employees and be based in South Carolina. You have to have been in operation from October the 13th of this past year to present. You have to demonstrate some type of business impact as a result of COVID. These grants are going to be anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000 per individual business. The window is also going to open up for this application on Monday, and it's going to go through November the 1st. And it also requires supporting documents on your application. These qualifying business expenses are pretty much the same thing as our nonprofit: staffing, operating, facility costs, PPE, and revenue losses. It is also going to ask you to support documentation, so your W-9s, identification, effects of COVID on your business. So again, there will be an actual application for this for forgivable grant or forgivable loan that you've come to know through PPE. Both are applications, again, that we will put links to on our website. Really, really important, though, that if you need help with these particular applications, we're going to be learning exactly what that supporting documentation is and how to better your chances for getting one of these grants. I'm attending a couple of webinars here in the next couple of days. Also, our SCORE partners, I think I saw Mike Waters on the call. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that your application is ready to go as soon as you need it. With that said, there's one other thing that if I could get our businesses to help us with, both business and nonprofits, in the next couple of days, and I know Monday, Haley on our team said that she would put out a survey. The Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation and our friends John O'Toole and Charlie Stone and others, I think the Home Builders Association, MEG, the Realtors Association, I think they're going to get a lot of folks involved in this. There's a survey that we need for you to participate in so that we can know where you stand in terms of not only business owner sentiment, but perhaps consumer sentiment that you have. We need to know what our needs of our community are so that we can better advocate for you, not only for legislative items on the local, state, and federal level, but also as we move forward with our programming. We just really need to take your temperature right now. No pun intended on what Dr. Kelly just said a minute ago. But again, it's really important that we know what you need. So these two grant programs, it's going to be a really tight window. If you have any questions, email me, call me here at the chamber. But you should have all of the documents that you need in the chat box, as well as on our website to begin getting those, give you a little homework this weekend so that you can log in on Monday and get it done. Bill?
All right, Hannah, thank you for that very, very informative update. Hannah is here. If you need to email Hannah, feel free to email, to call, and she is waist deep into this, if not shoulder deep. And that's right. She's barely treading water at times. That's right. That's right. One question coming to you, Hannah, from Linda. And Linda is asking, what if you bought a turnkey business? It was in operation on October 13, 2019 under another owner. And you may have the answer for that. You may not, but I know you'll find it if you don't.
Yeah, you know, I don't have any specifics on whether or not if the ownership changed within that time, but if it was yours, all I see right here is that it was in operation from October 13th, 2019 to present. So on the thumbnail information, it looks like that business would qualify for these grants, but let's dig a little bit deeper just in case there's anything on the grant application, which I have not yet seen. But as soon as the grant operation or application is made public, if there are any stipulations, but Bill, I really don't think that there's going to be.
Okay, well, thank you. And Linda, if you need more on that, certainly Hannah's a go-to here for that. Hannah, great information today. Keep up the good work. Kelly has posted several links in the chat box. I'd encourage you to look at those before we disconnect. And also want to mention that we've got a great team here. You see what Hannah's delivering, and people that help put on this call every week, Kayla Boyder and Kelly Brunson and Charlie Clark. Anyway, we've got a great team. So reach out to us. We're here, and we appreciate your support, and we're here for you. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe and be kind. Thank you. Bye-bye.